Hi, welcome to High Road 2. This is Mark Stouffer. And I want to inspire you and encourage you today. I'm going to tell you a story that really had a huge impact in my life. And I love sports. I got involved early with sports, and it really turned my life around. It allowed me to separate myself from toxic environments, my family, a lot of drugs, a lot of criminal activity. And I was in a lot of trouble at a very young age, but because I fell in love with sports, it brought me into an environment where it was just about nutrition, physical and social activity every day. And I continue that, every day as much as possible. I'm now doing cold plunges with a group of people, and there's this amazing culture, where I'm at. And I was so thankful to kind of run into this group that inspires me to get up and get out there at an early morning and then just start my day. And it's more than just the cold, plunge benefits, how that helps you physically, mentally, now socially. It's just truly about that connection, right? And so my inspiration and encouraging message is that as we embark on new journeys of self-awareness, it requires raw honesty, right? I was very insecure, extremely insecure as a kid going into these environments because, I just didn't feel worthy, and you're beat down in an environment, gang mentality kind of thing. Your friends, they just down you constantly, and then you start to believe them, and that's the worst thing you can do. I look at a lot of kids today that are playing video games, and they're not in the real world, right? And I told my boys specifically, because boys got more addicted to gaming than girls, but ultimately I tell my boys, minutes turn into hours, hours into days, days into weeks, weeks into months, months into years, and years into decades, and your life passes you by. And nobody really cares what level you're on. It doesn't provide a foundation for you to build resiliency in your life and overcome the challenges out in the real world. Okay. And so I want to say that we have to overcome limiting beliefs and acknowledge our weaknesses. All right. Everybody has to do that no matter what. And, the process can be unforgiving at times, extremely painful. I learned this quickly going into the trades, and they eat you up and spit you out. I was working 18-hour days after the earthquake, and I was a rookie. I was learning, and it was just brutal. But I persevered because I was nutritionally healthy, I was physically healthy, and I was socially healthy at that point in time in my life. And you can't get that from social media, right? It's too difficult. You have to get out in the real world and take the beatings, if you will, but it provides a foundation. And what I want to say, fast forward, I'm on these massive jobs, and I'm realizing, gosh, I'm not, pretty new to the company. Why aren't the seniors in the company, on these big jobs and working this equipment and navigating these meetings with Army Corps of Engineers and the guy that trained me, he laughed. He said, "You have no idea why?" I said, "No. Why isn't the owner's son and all the seniors in this company out here working side by side with us?" And he says, "Because you're the only one to pass the drug test." So, you just have to have that foundation and that mindset that you're going to overcome, but it does require, mastering the fundamentals. So I'm going to go on. I'm reading from my notes here. As we become more aware of who we truly are, our values, our passions, our strengths, and our vulnerabilities, right? I'm not one to write reports and, my spelling's terrible. I just don't do well in that. If they ask me to go in the office and spend my time, writing detailed reports, that would be brutal. I'm better out in the field. And I like the connection with the people involved and working with them as a team, finding that synergy, finding that flow state, finding that ability to really perform, and the before and the after, right? And you got to make a pretty big mess before you can clean it up out in the field. Just like any project, it looks really messy, but then it eventually comes together, and and generally works if you do it right, with the right team, with the right people. You got to surround yourself with the right people. Okay, so I want to basically just say this, is that you become less concerned with others and what their opinions might be. It's just really like water off a duck's back. I can't explain it any other way. Like, if you know that you're living with purpose and that you're not willing to compromise, it doesn't matter really who in your life. If there's dishonesty and then there's a threat, that's definitely a sign. All right, you're not gonna cower and submit. It's the last thing you want to do. As innocent as it may seem or appear, that's just not the foundation that provides resiliency and long-term growth. So you confront it, and you just got to push through it, And yeah, it can be hard, but what helps a lot is to be so focused and so passionate about things of purpose in your life that those things kind of just work themselves out, and people have to be accountable. That's just the way it works out. And a lot of times it doesn't end well for them. And that is the sad truth. And so recognize that their judgments, and often they're based on their perceptions. It's their understanding and their weaknesses in their life. They want to live in a box and play video games all day, specifically. That's their problem. And as long as it's not on your watch, under your roof, right? That just wasn't an option for my kids. If they weren't working or going to school, I told them, you got to move out. You got to man up. You got to, move on and build a foundation for your life. And I'm not going to just sit quietly about it, right? I care too much. I care so much that I don't care about the video games. I don't care about all the trivial stuff that occupies their day. If they're not performing at a level that I know that they're capable of using their God-given gifts, then I'm going to say something about it, and I'm not going to stop. And I'll never stop because I care too much, right? And so that's my message, really, is that if you really care about yourself and you want to be accountable, it's about accountability, right? It's about accountability, and holding others accountable can sometimes be more challenging than keeping yourself accountable. And that requires boundaries, and boundaries need to be set if you care, and they need to be executed, if you care enough, and you should care enough to, set those boundaries on others, because this is what it's like. I had a family experience. My sister lent money. She moved in with us for a period of time, and what turned into what should have been a few months was a couple of years. And then, we weren't really helping her. We were enabling her. And then she lent money to somebody, and then they didn't pay her. And I said, well, how is it that his problem is your problem is my problem, right? That's not my problem. And so I asked her to move out. And, I was the worst brother in the world, but she wouldn't be who she is today if I hadn't done that. So, yeah, there's a lot of ways to kind of skin the cat, but ultimately you have to be accountable to setting those boundaries and enforcing those boundaries. And, you got to be the bad guy once in a while. So, bad person once in a while. So with that, I hope this reaches your heart and your mind and encourages you and inspires you to take the necessary actions and know who you are. Be rawly honest with who you are and confront your fears. You're challenging your limiting beliefs, and you're being honest with yourself. And with that, find yourself in really good, healthy environments. Okay, continue to eat really well, continue to be physically and socially active every day, and find those healthy environments that are going to feed you and navigate the foundation that you're going to need to overcome the challenges that you face in your life. And with that, I wish you well. Hi, thank you for watching this content, and most importantly, for being inspired and encouraged to take action. Nothing happens without action. I would highly recommend that you meditate every day as you walk, as you are being social in your environments, as you're nutritionally healthy, to manifest what will make a difference in your life. Share how you overcame, the dramas and the toxicity of your life, and not just holding yourself accountable, but holding other people accountable. And boundaries are constant, never ending. For every new level, there's a new devil. And you're constantly going to have to put boundaries on yourself and others and be accountable. Be accountable. So I hope that the content inspired you, encouraged you. There's a lot of links, a lot of resources that will help you overcome, build a foundation, and take the actions. Share your comments, share your successes, share those milestones, as small as they might be. And with that, I hope this message finds you well.